Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to discuss how to know whether you're projecting. Note. This is another question from a listener. Thank you guys. Animus@animusempire.com. If you have a question, this one is how to tell whether you see reality for what it is or whether you're just looking at your own unconscious projection, your own shadow projection. Oftentimes we think we're interacting with reality, but in fact what we're doing is we're just managing our own psyches out there in reality. And it's amazing because you can manage your own psyche. You think you're managing reality, but you're really not. And you can do it for years. And you think, why is this thing not working out? Well, we'll get to it. One of the signs that you're projecting, why is this thing not working out? I keep hammering away at it, and then you realize, oh wow, that was my own psychological issue I was projecting out that I thought was this thing. And of course, no wonder it wasn't, nothing was working out because I wasn't addressing the problem for what it was. And it's crazy because it can feel real. It can feel as real as reality. But you talk through these things, you process emotions in a certain way, as we do here, then you start to realize, oh wait, this has nothing to do with reality and everything to do with my psychological issue. I mean, that's the idea of a complex. What Jung talks about, the complex. You think the thing out there is the problem, but really it's going on in here. So how do you know? I mean, if projections feel real, how can you tell whether you're really dealing with reality or simply your own psychological issue projected out onto reality? Well, there are three. There's a bunch of signs, but here's the three ones that I see in clients, in myself, good indication that you may be projecting. The first way to tell is if you have a difficult time looking at the situation from somebody else's viewpoint. I bring this up in the book. I say something to the effect of, everything is true of something. The only question is, what is it true of? Now, somebody may be some kind of political opponent, or you may be in some disagreement with somebody. And the best way to be sure that you're really arguing with that person and not just with your own psychological issues about that person is, are you able to see where that person is coming from? Even if they're wrong, even if they're objectively wrong. This is not to say all truth is objective and it's all just about perspectives. Sometimes it is, but sometimes people can be right, other people can be wrong. But if somebody's wrong, can you at least understand where they're coming from their perspective? Understand how their viewpoint makes sense, and not just get it intellectually, but really step inside their shoes. Do the To Kill a Mockingbird thing. Can you really step inside their shoes, walk around, and really get it, really feel it? This is what's so important about group therapy. Is often we go to a group and people think, well, man, everybody here is a loser. I don't want to hang out with losers, right? You can tell your friends, or you can tell your future by your friends, and that is true to some degree. But the ultimate truth there is you can't determine your future by your friends. Rather, your relationship with your friends. Maybe I'll do another video on this because I think it's really important, and there's a lot of misinformation about this. Oh, your friend's a loser, well, just cut him off. Well, maybe cut him off. Maybe you do need to cut him off, but not before talking with him, not before being more honest and open with him. Can you hear my dog licking her freaking leg, her paw? You would think she's a cat by the sound she makes. That's so gross. Just that licking, slurping sound. Anyway, so it's not about your friends as they are objectively, it's how you relate with them. That is going to be way more important. And that's, a great thing about going to a group is, you go to a group and of course they're losers. they're in group therapy, of course. They're losers, right? But can you relate? That's the important part. If you disagree with something, can you say it? Can you express disagreement? Can you express problems that you have with what they're saying, perhaps, in a healthy way, in a way that not only makes you better, but in a way that makes them better? Really, when somebody is bothering you, that is a challenge for a connection. And part of the therapy there is connecting. So that's one sign that you're projecting, is you just think the other person's stupid, and there's just something wrong with them, and it's some kind of mental disease, why they have whatever view they have. I'm reading the Bible. I've been reading the Bible since 2015, the Old Testament. I'm not a Christian, right? But it's amazing. you read through this and it's so obvious. Even as somebody who's not a Christian, it's so obvious. Every sentence, every word in the Bible is 100% true. There is no way that book would be as popular for such a long period of time if it wasn't 100% true. The question is, what is it true of? So that's one way to step outside your projection. Another way to tell that you're projecting is just when your buttons are pressed. There's lots of ways to say this. Your buttons are pressed. You lose your composure. I talk about that in my book. You're very reactive. You're not proactive. There's no stimulus. There's no pause between the stimulus and the responses, as Viktor Frankl says. Or you're really quick to blame somebody else. So a great example of this is whenever there's a police shooting, not taking any sides on police shooting, but whenever you see footage of a police shooting and you just know what happened, based on the 5-second footage you saw, you're projecting. You have no idea. Now, you may be correct. Your projection may actually be an indication of what's going on in reality, but it's still a projection. If it's just no information, this is what's happening, you don't know. You really don't know. The only caveat or the only counterexample here would be if it's something you're an expert in. Okay, then that's your intuition taking over and you can kind of tell where something's coming from immediately. But that's based on a lot of experience. That's based on a lot of knowledge. That's not based on, 5 seconds. Just in the case of police shooting, you don't know what's going on. Nobody does. And then a third indication that you are stuck in projections is if you're stuck in recurring loops, is what I kind of indicated at the beginning of this video. You're stuck in some kind of loop, whether it's with your girlfriend or, the famous example, you break up with a girlfriend, you're like, oh, she's crazy, I need to break up with her. And then you get involved in a new relationship and it's exactly all the same problems. Well, it's not your girlfriend at that point. Oh, this city's terrible. I got to leave this city. There's all these problems in my life. I know, I got to move. I got to move to a new city. And then you go to the new city and all the problems that were in the old city are in the city. Okay. Now you're not dealing with reality. You're not dealing with the city. You're dealing with your projection of your psychological issues. I guess similarly, just to exhaust this point, you leave a job because the boss is terrible and you go to a new job. And it's different boss, but all the same issues. Well, guess what? You're probably projecting. So those are the three main signs you're projecting. Well, I'll say a fourth one actually. Now that I'm talking through this, a fourth one, and this isn't always, or this isn't for every time, and I'm going to speak specifically for this time. If you are getting really involved in politics, it doesn't mean you can't have political opinions. Doesn't mean you cannot talk about politics. But I would say, in the year that it is, if you are becoming overly involved in politics, you think the other people are 100% wrong and your side is 100% right, this is projection. This is a way to manage your issues you do not know how to manage yourself. There are issues there. As much as you may know about your psychological state, I can guarantee you there's some issues there that you are not addressing as they are. And you are taking it out on politics. Politics is the modern day alchemy. Right? In the Middle Ages, the alchemists, the chemists, they didn't know anything about the substances they were dealing with. So what they did is they projected their unconscious situation out onto this chemical process. So really the chemical process is more about the individuation process. It really says more about psychological truths than it does the truth of the chemical processes, of course, before Mendeleev. We didn't know anything was going on there. Same thing with politics today. But, just because you're projecting, I guess in this vein, just because you're projecting doesn't mean that it's necessarily unhealthy. There's good kinds of projection. There's healthy kinds of alchemy. Like my dog, for instance. That is a projection. I project my psychological state onto my dog. And then I know the more I take care of my dog, the more in tune I am with my dog. I know I have a daughter here, but it's really more my wife's territory for now. Maybe it will be that way with my daughter, hopefully, if I'm any kind of decent father. But at least with my dog, right? I just know the more I take care of my dog, the more in tune I am with my dog, the better my life gets. I don't know. I know generally what's going on. I know generally I'm taking issues, I'm projecting issues on her. But there's some details there that I can't figure out. I don't ask questions. I take her for a walk. I give her good food, and I'm in tune with her. And I just know the more I do that, the better my life gets. I don't ask any questions. I think I mentioned a couple weeks ago I volunteer at this group, and the difference between healthy altruism or benevolence and unhealthy altruism, or I would just say altruism. I volunteer at this group. I help them out, and I know the more involved I can be in that group, the more I work to help out that group and just to iron out any wrinkles in the way it's run. The more I do that, the better my life gets. I don't ask questions, but that would be a healthy kind of projection, but that's fine. It's healthy, at least in part, because I know what I'm doing when I do it. So it's not that all projection is unhealthy, but just be conscious of when you are doing it unconsciously. Be conscious of your unconscious, and then and you're unconscious with your projection by the things we just discussed there. All right, guys, I'm rambling. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you have a question, animus@animusempire.com. We do free consultations here, animusempire.com/schedule. If you have a difficult time with your projections and do not know how to work through them, well, you work through them by processing emotional issues in the correct way, based on what emotions are. This is not my opinion. Based on what emotions necessarily must be, but given the fact that you're a human. We have a way of processing them. So schedule a free consultation. We will help you talk through it. I'll leave it there, and remember that projection, at least in general, is when you think your problem is everybody else's problem.